Do cold air intakes actually make a difference on a turbo engine? Aftermarket companies claim better airflow and more power, but can you actually tell in the real world? Or is it just marketing?
Intakes are one of those mods everyone loves to argue about. Some swear by them and others say they're pointless, especially on a turbo vehicle. So today we're installing one to see for ourselves.
So if you're not familiar with what an intake does or wondering if it's even worth it, think of your engine like a giant air pump. It pulls in air, mixes it with fuel, and ignites it to create a controlled explosion that drives the pistons. For a turbocharged truck like the EcoBoost, the turbo is forcing even more air in. So the more efficiently it can breathe, the more power it can make.
Think of it this way. Colder air is denser, so it carries more oxygen. More oxygen means bigger combustion bursts and ultimately more horsepower. And with an aftermarket intake, you're potentially getting even more air into the engine, which means more power.
Now you might be wondering, if Ford designed it that way, don't they know best? But they do have to balance cost, keep the truck quiet, and meet strict emission standards.
Aftermarket intakes focus solely on performance. They're designed to reduce restriction and give you that intake sound that everyone loves.
However, here's the deal. On turbocharged trucks, cold air intakes don't usually deliver big peak horsepower gains from a cold air intake. The factory intake is already a solid cold air system. Pulling air from outside the engine bay and the intercooler does handle cooling the compressed air from the turbos, so the colder air benefit can be overstated. Without a tune, you're looking at minimal gains, maybe 5 to 10 horsepower. Though some do claim more, pair it with a custom tune and you actually can make quite a bit more power.
But even if the power gains are small, we're curious to see if the truck feels more responsive in everyday driving.
So what intake did I decide to go with? I bought the Banks Ram Air for my EcoBoost F-150. And what's cool is it's fully enclosed, unlike a lot of aftermarket intakes that stick an open filter under the hood and suck in a lot of hot engine bay air, which can actually hurt performance because hot air is less dense and carries less oxygen. Now, I specifically bought the Ram Air intake from Banks because Gale Banks has been engineering high performance engines since the late 1950s. And he's been a pioneer in turbocharging for both gas and diesel. His company doesn't just flash numbers around, they actually test everything in real world conditions.
How do we make more power? We make each cubic inch of air heavier, more oxygen.
So when someone with that kind of experience develops an intake, you know it's built to perform and not just sell.
And Banks claims that this intake will pull in cooler outside air for more power and mileage, uses a giant high flow filter to keep things clean, and helps the engine run cooler. Even flexes with engine movement so nothing gets damaged over time.
Plus, it's 50 state legal, so we get better airflow without worrying about any smog checks here in California down the road.
Now the intake uses a nice big filter with deep pleats to maximize airflow. And you can choose between an oiled or a dry filter. We went with a dry filter because it's easier to clean after dusty desert runs.
Yeah, maintenance is super easy with this dry filter. You just tap out the dirt, rinse it with water from the inside out, and let it air dry and you're good to go. No messy re-oiling required like with oiled filters.
Both filter types can use a pre-filter tube. It's basically a mesh cover that keeps large debris out and helps extend the life of your filter.
And because of the conditions we planned off-road in, that extra layer of protection is worth it.
It might slightly reduce airflow since it adds another barrier, but for Devin, the added filtration is a smart trade-off. Because we are going to be dealing with a sensor during this install, we're actually going to go ahead and disconnect the battery. There are 3 band clamps that are holding this into place, so once we remove that, then we can remove the tube. But now that everything is loosened, you should be able to just pull out the tube like this. This cap right here needs to come up and over. Once you have that removed, you're going to go ahead and pull this piece off right here. Now it's just a thumb tab, so you just press it down and pull it out. Now these are just going to be thumb latches right here that you just go ahead and push on. They pop right off. There is 3 of them. And once you have that, you should be able to lift up and out the cover and remove the filter. And we're going to be installing these 2 brackets right here. So we're going to be starting with this longer one first that has 3 screw holes. And that one is going to go right here on this side where these holes are. Now that this is installed, we're going to go ahead and flip it over, and we're going to be dealing with installing the bracket with the 2 holes on this side. Now the difference is, whereas the other side had these prongs sticking outward, this side is actually going to be sticking inward just like that. We are just gonna do these very loosely. They'll be tightened a little bit later. So since Devin's truck is a 2014, we're actually going to be plugging up this hole here using a provided plug they give us that looks like this. We're gonna be applying thread sealant, and then we're gonna be using a 1/4 hex key to go ahead and put that in there. We are going to be sealing up one of the holes right here using this rubber gasket as well as this metal plate. They did give us a new screw to go ahead and install it with. So before we continue on with installing the filter, we're actually gonna go ahead and put in the high flow filter wrap. So now I'm gonna be taking the biggest of the hose clamps that there is. I'm gonna go ahead and tighten it, but not fully. This tube right here, and we're gonna be sliding it into the top of the intake. So we're gonna be taking this in here, and we are going to be pushing it onto the tube itself. Now you should hear a pop, just like I just did. And now we have to go ahead and tighten this clamp right here. We are back under the hood because we're gonna be installing these silicone couplers onto the 2 tubes that are gonna go into our new intake. So now that we have our tubes properly prepared, we're actually gonna go ahead and install the entire intake. So I'm going to be doing the driver's side first. So I just wanna make sure none of the clips or anything is in the way. And as I went to go line it in, I made sure that these sides with the prongs fit into the holes correctly. Take your time, make sure you're happy with where it's lined up, and then go ahead and tighten it using that 8mm. Align the top or the passenger side one. So now we're gonna be tightening up the screws that we didn't tighten earlier. Now this is on the bracket that has the 2 screws. Plug back in our OEM sensor. You can go ahead and put back on the negative terminal of the battery.
Here we go. A little bit of throttle on the stock intake.
That was like a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you genuinely feel like you're getting, like you said it was supposed to be almost snappier, right? Like you're supposed to feel it more instantly.
In my head, I think I am feeling it more.
Do you want me to do it? That's way more turbo than it was before. I will tell you that. Like the sound.
Yeah. Makes you want to put your foot into it. What are you thinking?
That it does feel like there's a difference.
That was honestly better than I expected. The turbo sounds are a little more pronounced now, and everything feels honestly a little sharper overall.
It's crazy how something as simple as an intake can change how the truck feels.
With the Borla exhaust already helping it flow better, this intake was the next step in really letting my EcoBoost breathe.
And next up, maybe the truck needs a tune. It's not required, but it'll definitely help make the most of the new airflow.
I agree. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe for more Ford content, and let us know in the comments down below if an intake is a must-have mod for you, or do you think it's just more hype?
And we will catch you on the next one. Bye, guys.